Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our April 29, 2020 board meeting. This is our first remote meeting, so welcome and thank you all for joining. For record-keeping purposes, I will do a roll call of all the board members present, and I would like to indicate that Vice Chair Garcia may need to leave earlier than the meeting is over. For prior engagement. I would like to begin with the roll call. Chair Russ,
Present.
Vice Chair Garcia,
Present.
Vice Chair Garcia.
Present.
Thank you. Board Member Gavin,
Present.
Board Member Gawab,
Present.
Board Member Gonzalez,
Present.
Board Member Young,
Present.
Board Member Young. Board Member Young.
Present.
Okay, and I believe our general manager is also on the call.
Present.
Thank you very much. Okay, being that there are no members of the public wishing to provide public comment, we may proceed with the regular calendar. We will start with a motion to accept the minutes, adopt the minutes of the regular meeting held on Wednesday, February 26, 2020. Do I have a
Mr.
motion?
Gonzalez motions.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say
Aye.
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 Very much. We will now proceed with the chair's report. The chair would like to provide some comments.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our first virtual board meeting. I'm going to cover just one topic, a fairly high level, touching on what the COVID-19 response by NYCHA has been. This is going to cover a number of areas of operation. And I'm going to ask Vito to join in as well as we get to some of these places and in the presentation. If the board wants, we can summarize this material for you. We have been circulating different notes and variations as the days change, so I'm going to try to go through this with you now. The continued health and safety of residents, employees. We have been working very carefully with our sister agencies in the city, with the Department of Health and NYCHA and state and federal partners, working with the vice chair's group on food distribution, for example. So this has been ongoing and actually has gained strength in the month and a half or so that we've been dealing with this. We've implemented an emergency telework policy. So we have just a little bit more than 2,000 staff members who are working from home. The property management staff and most operations staff have been deemed essential. So out of our roughly 11,000 employees, about 9,000 are non-teleworking, and many of them are at the sites, our 316 developments. If I could pause for a minute, I want to say thank you to those employees for their continued efforts to show up, to be at work, to be present in the midst of this crisis. We've had strong attendance throughout, and we've been able to keep essential functions going primarily because people are coming to work. I think we'd be remiss if we did not acknowledge that those individuals, the crews that fix the boilers, the elevators, the emergency service folks, the site staff, everybody from caretaker to anyone in the boroughs that's out in the field, we really need to acknowledge that they have been tremendously affected by this, but are still on the job. So I talked about staffing. Property management offices are open, but we have reduced the number of staff, and we've also suspended direct contact meetings between staff and residents. They can continue to schedule appointments to speak with staff, and we'll do so from behind the reception desk. They can also call in or contact us in other ways. We can accept documentation to the extent that we need it, and do basic things like work with the return of keys and vacates and window guard notices, and that's all being done with respect to social distancing. There's no in-person rent collection. We have implemented additional development-based maintenance protocols, canceled all planned hot water and other outages, and have focused on performing emergency work orders such as no heat and hot water conditions, water leaks, gas leaks, flooding, stoppages, and electrical issues. There's some additional critical work that we're continuing to perform, such as no electrical power to life-sustaining equipment, a flooding condition, cabinet issues, smoke or carbon monoxide detectors, window guards loose, that kind of thing. We're responding to gas leaks, stoves or refrigerators that are out of order, and we're providing hot plates when we lose gas in a particular building. We're also continuing to address work orders that relate primarily to common areas, such as intercoms and lobby doors. We have suspended annual inspections, we've suspended maintenance blitzes, and we've postponed as much work in occupied units as we can, and staff that are freed from that, no matter their job classification, are helping in other areas. We've also been adapting to the requirements around protection. There were 2 executive orders, one on April 2nd, one on April 15th, and we now have our staff has masks. In the beginning, like everyone else, we had difficulty with supply chain and materials, but we now have distributed masks to the employees, and in fact, we're using our quality assurance department to randomly check our properties, visit the sites, determine that employees are social distancing and wearing the masks as required by the recent executive orders. And we've been very successful in that. The employees have been very responsive to that, and that seems to be working. We've also been advising since the very start that employees make a risk assessment before they enter an apartment if they have to enter, that they politely ask about health on the other side of the door, and we expect the resident to ask the same, and they have. We've talked about and provided guidance to employees on social distancing if they have to work in the apartment, and also when they can reschedule if they're not comfortable or not able to achieve that kind of thing, given the nature of the work that might be in the unit. We've also very early engaged in a sanitizing of touch points, and I'm going to ask Vito if he could speak to that, because this has been an enormous effort to lift off the ground in a short period of time, and wanted to give a board a sense of what that sanitizing involves.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. So as you mentioned, we started the sanitizing efforts very early on in the pandemic. In fact, the first senior buildings that were treated with a disinfectant spray happened on March 11th. The family buildings started on March 13th. And what that involves is, for the senior buildings, there are 69 distinct buildings identified as senior buildings. The buildings are treated 5 times a week. The treatment consists of the application of an EPA-approved disinfectant, and we are focused on the touch points in the high traffic areas. Touch points such as the building entrance doors, mailboxes, elevator controls, hopper doors, and in the senior buildings, in the stair halls from the 5th floor down, which would be inclusive of the doorknob as well as the handrails. We have a similar effort that's being undertaken for our family buildings, there we are doing the treatment 3 times a week as opposed to 5 times. And it's the same touch points. The only difference is in the family buildings, we are treating the doorknobs and the handrails in the stair halls from the top floor down. Right, so that is a major distinction. And the reason why we're doing that is because we do know that more residents are using the stairs and not using the elevators, trying to adhere to social distancing guidance. It's been a tremendous effort, as you indicated. We have approximately 2,200 buildings, approximately 3,800 lobbies, 3,300 elevators, and almost 29,000 stories worth of building that are being treated each week. And so it has been a major undertaking. Chair, if I can just for a second, just go back for a second to the staffing.
Go ahead, Vito. I had more, but go ahead.
Sure, and thank you for calling out the efforts of the staff. And there are so many people behind the scenes that are not visible. The staff at the developments are the face of the agency, the authority, the folks that our residents see. But behind the scenes, there has been such a tremendous effort, and it touches on every aspect of the authority. Right? And people have often said that we run a small city, and there's no question about it. We do. And if I can just, and I will run down very quickly, I promise. I want to just shout out our resident engagement, family partnership staff, finance, law, procurement, HR, the warehouse staff, who have been moving tons of products.
Tremendous. Yep.
Our CCC, the operators who show up every day to continue to take calls from our residents. Communications, intergovernmental, who are pushing out information at a staggering, rate. Our compliance, QA, and EHS departments, and I'm sure I've missed a few departments, and my apologies, but these are just some of the areas that are behind the scenes. And without those efforts, we cannot do what we're doing in operations out in the field. Thank you.
Vito, thank you. I did want to say a couple other things on staffing. We have been affected by the virus like everyone else. We are estimating and gathering as much information as we can. So our impact on the workforce as of yesterday was around 419 individuals. And this means we have 250 that may have stepped back for some COVID-related reason. There could be other reasons why folks are away. And we have 169 confirmed cases. And sadly, we've also lost 10 employees. That is gives you a sense of the impact on NYCHA. This is a virus, of course, that actually doesn't recognize whether you're an employee or a resident. It's just there. I wanted to also pick up one thread from Vito's comments. The Community Engagement and Partnership Department has been tremendously active, both engaging and supporting Catherine's efforts on the food distribution, but also we've made over 37,000 individual phone calls and spoken to almost 20,000 of our most vulnerable residents to confirm firsthand that they understand the precautions around COVID and to identify if they have any special needs or a way that we can connect them to someone. We've supported that, started that effort early, and we continue to do that. And that is done in also in cooperation with other city departments who are engaged in the same kinds of activities. We are implementing, for those, we have about 76,000 residents with employment income. A lot of these residents are likely very vulnerable and to job loss. So we have been articulating our rent hardship policy, and to Vito's point about behind the scenes, we're working with a group of folks across the telecommunications that we now use so frequently And we're going to be expediting and streamlining that process. So if someone loses employment income, they're not going to have to go through the same process that we normally had for the rent hardship. We're actually taking advantage of HUD waivers and other ideas that the staff have generated. And we ought to be in a position very shortly to process what we suspect will be a significant number of requests for interim recertifications due to loss of income. Of course, the rent can go down to zero. That is possible if someone has no income. To give you a feel for this, our average income at NYCHA is around $25,000. Our average rent's about $548, and we can adjust both income and the rent corresponding to 30% of that based on what the resident provides us. So that's coming. Vito mentioned the outreach. Since the start of COVID, we've done approximately 1.9 million communications via phone calls, robocalls, emails, personal contact to tenant association leaders, elected officials, advocate, the Section 8 residents, and the landlords. I can't tell you how those numbers are staggering. And of course, when we started this journey, we couldn't have imagined that we'd be doing this level of outreach. And there's a number of staff who are supporting this in all the departments, both those providing the facts to the communication folks and the communications folks themselves who are getting it out the door. We are continuing NYCHA construction on some of our PACT and RAD sites has been determined essential. So we worked through that with the city, Department of Buildings, and a lot of that work is still continuing. And let me see what else I wanted to cover with the board. We've talked about providing the masks. We talked about, Vito, did you see any other high-level things that we want to share with the board right at the moment?
Chair, I don't believe, I believe you covered just about everything. Certainly again, I'm going to spin back for a second to community engagement partnership and family partnership and the outreach that they've been doing, including the individual calls that are being made, right? To our vulnerable population. That's inclusive in the overall number that you gave, but it is, again, just an incredible effort.
Thanks, Vito. One last area, stimulus package. Congress passed the CARES Act. In just the past 2 days, we received the HUD notices on the funding. There's additional funding in CARES for both the voucher program and the public housing program. We have estimated some of that additional funding based on past distribution methodologies. But to be frank, we have just gotten the notices and such. They've just come in the past 48 hours. Staff is reviewing those now to determine how much funding NYCHA would share in and when that funding would be available and in what quantities, whether it's released in the normal course of HUD events or HUD is making that money available to us in a different way. I really do want to acknowledge the New York delegation for their effort on that, are probably not a bad guess, but nonetheless an estimate of what they think we'll need. We anticipate, depending on how deep a decline we have in our rental income, that we may need to go back to HUD. We've also been working through all of this with our delegation and others on crafting a larger kind of recovery stimulus package. We have sent to the national housing groups, all three of them, a sign-on letter that 2 weeks ago went to the appropriators. NYCHA initiated that sign-on letter, and it anticipates or asks for substantial resources in investments in capital, in vouchers, tenant protection vouchers, and other areas. What was interesting about that letter is 770 housing authorities signed on to that letter, all across the country, all geographies, all locations. And that was delivered to the staff federal staff who work in appropriations in both the Senate and the House. And we've been working with our delegation since then to continue to develop those ideas. In the event of a recovery stimulus package, we want housing to be part of the essential infrastructure and receive funding for that. The last area I'll touch on is we continue to work with the federal monitor. We have indicated under the terms of our agreement, we have invoked a clause in the agreement that's called force majeure, which basically is events out of our control, and they're impacting the work that can be done and the timetable that work can be done. We've had really, pardon me, really good discussions with the monitor, also through our law department with the Southern District and with HUD, and also our city partners. We are outlining to them our best efforts to continue to meet certain terms of the agreement, recognizing that with the delay that the shelter in place has established, we're going to have to come back and determine new timetables for much of the work that we had laid out. And the monitor's aware of that, the Southern District's aware of it, and certainly HUD is aware of it. And we continue to do some work related to compliance and the monitorship, but we have put them on notice and are in discussions with them about what that will mean for the agreement in the long term. That's a real high-level look at the COVID response. I apologize for taking so long. It's just been, we couldn't have our board meeting last month, but I did want to give the board a sense that that this has been a significant impact on NYCHA, but nonetheless, we are working through it. And thank you for this time. That concludes my report.
Question?
Yes, sir.
Hi, this is Victor Gonzalez.
Victor, hello.
I'm doing fine. Cabin fever, but I'm doing fine. And so is the family. I have a question. I think I asked it or sent an email on it, and I haven't gotten a response yet, but then I understand with everything going on. Now, I understand the privacy of the individuals, whether it be staff or resident, that has been affected or infected with the COVID-19. And the privacy, I get it. My concern is the overall issue. For example, if this employee had visited and did a repair, unbeknownst to him, knowing that he was contaminated, and he went into people's apartments, shouldn't there be a notice put in the building? This building has been affected by COVID-19. Please take the necessary precautions to either go get tested or what have you, because you don't know if someone went into your apartment that was affected, even though they didn't know. So now they get classified, or somehow they found out that they're affected. How does this help the residents know to take the necessary precautions now, or the extra precautions to help themselves and their families?
Well, this is let me give you a couple of thoughts on this, and then I might ask Vito to add to it. So first of all, we are not, no individual is required to disclose this, whether they're a resident or employee. We have had some employees tell us this, but we may have employees who, for their own personal reasons and perfectly within their rights, not indicate if they've had the virus or not. Secondly, as a matter of citywide health policy, the assumption is that all New Yorkers have been exposed. Where that exposure came from or when is probably impossible to determine. The third part is the testing itself. There's two initial programs that relate specifically to a NYCHA property and surrounding neighborhoods, one being sponsored by the state, the other being sponsored by the city. We don't have any testing quite yet to scale that would allow individuals to sort of do the contact tracing that you're suggesting when a person who has the virus comes in contact and gives it to another one. So we're just physically, I do not think in the health world we're equipped to do that. So we have been asking employees to take care, obviously, but the process that you described is not one that we're currently implementing. And there are some big reasons for that. The first of it being that we may not even know or be told that the person has positive for COVID. And Vito, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything else to that based on our experience to date or not.
Yeah, Chair, no, I think you really covered the points. Now, I do want to again impress that our Office of Environmental Health and Safety have really been closely monitoring guidance issued by the federal government, the state, and the city, and we are putting it into practice as soon as a guidance is issued. And so it's an ever-changing environment that we're in. So, they've been doing an incredible job keeping everyone informed and making sure that we're in compliance with the most with the most recent guidance issued.
Well, I still have some things, but in order to save time, being that this is our first, I will contact you directly or through
Please,
the
please, no, Victor, please.
corporate office.
Yeah, no, Vilma's got my cell number. Just give me a call.
Okay,
Thank
sounds
you.
good. Then there's one other point. On TV, we've noticed that the mayor, the governor, and elected officials have decided that they want to get not only the staff PPE equipment and sanitizer, but also to the residents. Now, I don't know if they've given NYCHA the go ahead or or whether we are capable to do that or whether we're getting any funding for that. Can anyone update us on how that's going to happen, if it's going to happen at all? And because I did hear of a development receiving the sanitizer, but it came in a huge drum. So how do
Yeah.
you distribute that to the residents?
Well, that's an interesting question. And let me say first off that we have had an initiative from the state to distribute items like sanitizer. That was coordinated, that was not coordinated through NYCHA. That was done independently of us. And, community engagement and partnership has been advising the tenant associations who have received delivery of these products. And to your point, they are in gallon containers. This is not a NYCHA initiative. We're certainly willing to give people help where we can, but that particular initiative, and I believe there's also one at the city. I would say our role has been to be as supportive as we can and collaborative where we can afford to be. But we're not leading either one of those initiatives. We're just trying to help in some facilitative role. I don't know, General Manager, if you wanted to add any other observations, or if Sadia's on, who heads our community engagement and partnership, I'd be glad to make sure the board hears your comment.
Thank you, sir. I would defer to Sadia if she wants to add anything to what you said, but I think you covered the issues.
And the masks?
I think the masks are part of I think they're in both. Now, I don't want to misspeak, but I think both the governor and the city are making those available. I believe the city materials are masks and is it gloves, Vito, that they're also?
Yes. So the
And
city,
go ahead.
right, as you indicated, both the governor and the mayor are sending masks. The governor's masks were delivered to the TA presidents along with the gallon sanitizers. The mayor's masks and latex gloves are being mailed to residents. If there's a household that is too large for the package to be placed in their mailbox, those will be distributed separately. And then there are also hand sanitizers from the city that primarily will be distributed to our senior population. And those are in 8-ounce bottles.
Okay. Just for your information, so that you'll understand why I'm a little concerned. Our tenant association president was out of commission in the hospital, so there was no reaching him due to this COVID pandemic, and hence the other board members. I've spoken to a couple of them, and they received none of the information. So
Right.
I had put this on an email, and various resident leaders from the surrounding area have addressed the issue in an email, I think, to you and the chair. I was wondering if you can shed some light on that, so that the residents here can receive all these benefits that the mayor, the governor, NYCHA, and everybody else involved
Well,
is trying to help.
I want to reiterate that these are not NYCHA-led initiatives, and that what we can do is provide contact both at the state and city level for a tenant association at anywhere, one of our properties that did not receive any of the materials being distributed. As the general manager noted, the initiative for the gloves and masks will be mailed, so that's in progress, and people will be receiving a packet for these. And we'd be glad to provide contact information on the state side and the city side with respect to the other items.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure thing.
This is board member. Y'all might like to speak. In regards to the distribution of the masks from the state and the hand sanitizer, my property does not have a tenant association board in place. So I did receive a call from our council member, Alika Samuels, and today they're going to be distributed them into our 3 properties door to door. Just wanted to let you know.
Thank you.
So this is Sadia, if you don't mind, if I can just jump in too. Board members, this is Sadia Sherman, EVP for Community Engagement and Partnerships. So I think to the chair's point, the distribution of the gloves and, of the mask and the gallon bottles of sanitizers was not necessarily coordinated through NYCHA. However, we are reaching out to each property, each resident association to understand who received what, who has challenges with distribution, where the gaps are, so we can help try to mobilize volunteers, work with elected officials. We've had some staff who were out even yesterday helping people transport materials so that we can try to assist tenant associations who are having a challenge with distributing or creating a plan for distribution. So we can certainly, Board Member Gonzalez, we can certainly follow up with you offline and make sure you have that information.
Okay, thank you very much. Very well appreciated.
This is Paula Gavin. First of all, I want to thank and commend NYCHA for both the leadership and the great dedication and work. So it is recognized, and just wanted to express my thanks and commendations. I did want to ask if at some point we have data from the health department, the city health department, on the number of cases and deaths of residents. I hope we can share that with the board. As we know, the press tends to report things without data sometimes. And so in the future, when we have that data, it would be important for me to understand how badly our residents were affected. So I thank you again for your leadership, and just hope in the future that we can see the data when it is available.
Thank you, Paula.
I'm done.
All right, I have, that concludes the chair's report. If there are no other questions, we can go back to the agenda.
Wilma?
Vilma, you are muted.
Hello? Okay. Number 1, Calcedino Bruno. Bruno.
Hello?
Yes. Is this Calcedonia Bruno?
Yes, it is. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please
Great.
present.
Great. Yes, good morning. My name is Calcedonia Bruno. I'm a director in operations. I'm going to be presenting item 1. Authorization is requested to ratify a funding increase to an agreement with Output Services. Output Services provides lead-based paint and window guard annual notices. Output Services creates, prints, and mails two-sided bilingual lead-based paint and window guard notices to approximately 170,000 authority residents. Output Services also provides a follow-up notice to the authority's residents who did not respond to the first mailing. Through this agreement, Output Services assists the authority with compliance with the New York City Local Law 1 of 2004, which requires owners of a multi-unit dwellings to inspect their apartments for peeling lead-based paint and other lead-based paint hazards. New York City Local Law 57 of 2011, which requires the authority to install and maintain window guards in all windows if a child 10 years of age or under resides in the apartment, or if the resident requests them. Local Law 117, which requires owners to make stove knob covers available to tenants, and amendments to 3 RC New NY Section 401-06, which requires owners to provide tenants with the FDNY's Emergency Preparedness Checklist and Bulletin. The approval of this funding increase to this agreement with Output Services prior to the board approval was received by the procurement department from the general manager on March 27, 2020. This ratification or a funding increase to this agreement with Output Services is required to increase the not to exceed amount in order to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the initial 3-year term. Any questions?
Any
Cal,
questions, board members?
No,
what
not I.
does it change?
Was there a question? No?
Yes, I just wanted to get the amount of the change, the increase.
$100,000?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item number 2. Kirsten Jardine.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So good morning, everyone. My name is Kirsten Jardine. I'm the Senior Compliance Integration Manager in the Compliance Department, presenting item 2. The Compliance Department is requesting authorization to permit ratification of an agreement to Nan McKay & Associates for public housing assessment and uniform physical condition standards in-person training for 3,000 NYCHA caretaker staff, as well as development of online refresher training classes. This is in the amount of $1,020,360. This will be commencing on September 1st, 2020, and continuing through August 31st of 2022, with a one-year renewal option. The approval to award this agreement prior to board approval was received by the Compliance and Procurement Departments from the General Manager on April 6, 2020. As per the January 31 agreement, the authority is required to ensure that training is provided to the applicable authority employees on regulations and guidelines with respect to FARS inspections, and particularly including the importance of not committing deceptive practices in these inspections. In September 2019, we commenced training of managerial and maintenance worker staff, utilizing NAMK as our vendor. Until the COVID-19 lockdown, where we were ahead of schedule and had roughly 65% of the almost 1,700 staff trained. The federal monitor requested that for phase 2, we should be required to train the caretaker staff to ensure that we provide continued education. We also decided to create the 3-hour online refresher training that would be able to integrate into NYCHA's new learning management system. Any questions?
Yes, I have one question. I just wanted to know, I noticed that Quadell had 5 years training online as well as in person, and I didn't see any statistics for Nan McKay in terms of the training. So I was wondering why we went with Nan McKay opposed to Quadell.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So Nan McKay, you're correct that Quadell did list that they had the 5 years of online training. Nan McKay does host online training. The reason we decided to go with them over and above Quadell is the fact that we are currently in contract with them. They have been training our staff and doing a really excellent job. And I'm happy to share statistics on what they've been doing. So for continuity of services, we just felt that it was a little bit easier to continue with them as part of the contract, as we already have all of the content that's developed with them. And they assured us that they do have the capabilities of converting that into an online refresher course for us.
Thank you.
No further questions. We will move on with items number 3 through 8. Razul Zanajad, please provide comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Rasul Azanajad. I'm the Vice President of Healthy Home. The 6 authorization that requesting to ratify the award of IDIQ for lead-based pain reevaluation and risk assessment for where we have the lead-based pain still in our properties. This is one of the requirement of Healthy Home regulation and also based on our current agreement with the monitor. So these IDIQs will provide visual assessment where we have lead-based pain or where we have presumed lead-based pain, and also it will do a dust pipe analysis of any dust hazard in our properties. The contracts is the value of the contract is 2.9. The contractor that are awarded this contract are ALC Environmental, ATC Group, AirTech Environmental, and Lou Corporation. These contractors already working with other lead-based paint activity with NYCHA, and we want to start using this contract as soon as possible. The value of the contract, as I said, is about 2.9 million for each contract. 6 contract and 4 contract Any question?
No questions.
Thank you.
Any comments or any questions on items 3 through 8? No comments?
No,
Okay. Just would like to note that our vice chair will be getting off our call. And so for the purposes of transparency, I would just like to ask if she is in favor of items 1 through 8 presented thus far.
Yes, I am.
Okay. And just for the record, having reviewed the calendar, although we haven't gotten to the items, do you have any opposition or any concerns with any of the other items that we have not gotten to yet?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a great day, Vice Chair.
Hey,
Thank you.
Catherine,
Yeah?
thank you so much for the work on your side.
Oh, no, I try to make sure everyone's getting fed.
Yeah, I know.
Keep coordinating with your folks.
Yeah, and it's really, really appreciated, and it's very valued. Thank you.
Yeah, any feedback you guys have, let me know. You know how to reach me.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
you too. Thank you.
And now we may proceed with Steve Lovesey, who will be presenting items 9 through 12 and 14 through 24, and then we'll circle back on item number 13 before we proceed to number 25. So Steve Lovesey.
Good morning. I wish all of you and your families and your colleagues safety and healthy. Per the state Public Housing Authority, capital work is essential, and we are continuing our work as long as our contractors can comply with the current laws and the safety associated with COVID pandemic, including distancing. For March 2020, capital's spend was $74 million, illustrating our commitment to making sure that the work is continuing for our residents. Item number 9, Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to award contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Sko-Nutz Plumbing and Heating Corporate, for gas piping replacement at St. Nicholas Houses in the amount of $4,920,000. This amount is about 1.78% above our estimate. But we feel, reviewing the proposals, that the firm's overall performance evaluation is satisfactory, and they understand the work associated to the gas piping replacement. We feel that this is a viable contract. They are proposing 2 Section 3 hires for this project. If there are no questions, I will go on to item number 10.
I have a general question to ask after you're done with all your items.
Okay, thank you. Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to award a contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Pro Metal Construction, Inc. This is for water tower renovation and tank replacement at Woodson Houses. The contract value is $2,225,862.02. The variance is 28.73 above capital's estimate, but we've reviewed the overall line items. We identified where the higher costs are. Those are associated to asbestos work and the higher cost of scaffolding due to the height of the buildings. Based on our analysis, Capital Projects Division finds ProMetal's bid to be acceptable. This is part of the Tranche 6 roofing program, so the goal is to get the work done before we have the roof work done. This contractor is proposing a 1 Section 3 hire. There are no other questions. I will move on to item number 11. Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to award this contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Green Builders Group, New York Corporation. This is for exterior renovation and roof replacement at Patterson houses in the amount of $31,706,555.26. Green Builders submitted a bid that is 25.43% below our cost estimate. We reviewed their line items, and we feel that they understand the work associated to this project and that the contract award is acceptable. They are a minority-owned business and have been operating since 2003 and provided a few projects for capital. They have proposed 13 Section 3 hires. No other questions? Item number 12. Capital seeks authorization to award this contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, P&K Contracting, Inc. This is for roof replacement and rooftop structure renovation at Holmes Tower as part of the Mayor's Roofing Initiative Tranche number 4. It's the amount of $4,224,920. The bid is 5.32% lower than our estimate, and we are happy with this bid. P&K is a minority-owned business and has been in operation since 1997. They are proposing 10 Section 3 hires. There are no other questions. I'm going to move on to item number 14. As Vilma explained, we will come back. Another individual will come back for item number 13. Capital seeks authorization to ratify and enter into a customer installation commitment. We refer to this as a CIC. In our terminology, it would be a task order. This is with the New York Power and Authority of the State of New York, NYCHA. This is for emergency, or in essence, for boiler replacements in an amount not to exceed $100 million. We have a MOU with NYCHA that was part of a board resolution where they are providing and implementing energy efficient and clean energy projects for us. The project with this ICI is associated to the state heating pipeline, where they will be managing and building 3 of the 9 state-funded and federal-funded heating plants. Those heating plants are 830 Amsterdam, Barry, and Marble Hill. If there are no other questions, I will move on to item number 15. Yes.
I have one.
Yes.
I noticed that in the Section 3 hiring, it says to be determined. Is that correct?
That is correct. We are working with NYCHA to, two parts to this. In terms of NYCHA, we're working with them, but they will be managing 3 of the contracts. And so we are currently in the RFP process of the design build program for these projects. Those design build companies will provide Section 3 hires and a Section 3 hiring plan. Once we evaluate those RFPs and we present those to the board, we will identify each contract associated to the boiler plants and the number of Section 3 hires of each of those contracts.
So it says here that the 5-year term will commence March 26th now. So are they currently doing that, or are we waiting for this to go through before it begins?
So this is a ratification to a consumer installation commitment that we have. It's actually a ratification to one that Capital and Operations holds with NYCHA, because a lot of the projects associated to this have infrastructural pieces where we'll be able to work the capital project and with operations on some of the operational work there.
Steve, it's Greg. This is in effect a task order for this work, and we're issuing the task order, and there will be subsequent contracting that comes back to the board as part of the task order process.
Correct, Greg.
Okay.
Their terminology is a CIC, but yes,
Right.
it's, in our
Right.
world, it's a task order.
So,
And they are providing the services for us. They are managing what would be the contracts associated to the design build
Right.
of those heating plants.
So, Victor, to your point, we've launched the process, but we'll be coming back once those contracts are realized with information on the hiring plans as well as the work that's going to be done.
Okay. Okay. Because I was a little confused, being that it said that it's going to commence on a date that's already passed.
But it's a ratification of that action. So the board's endorsing the action as Steve has explained it and
Right.
saying we're okay with that. But as Steve points out, there'll be other steps that we're going to have to get involved in once there's any contracting.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg. Are there any other questions?
Steve, this is Paula Gavin. I just wanted to let you comment on the progress overall on the roofs. I know you shared some data with me, which was very encouraging. So just a comment for the full board.
Thank you very much for bringing that up. I identified a previous board item in which was for tranche number 4. That was the Holmes Tower and board item number 12. That is part of the mayor's roofing initiative, one that we are extremely proud of. One thing I didn't mention in my opening statements is that I am very proud of the work that the Capitol staff, as well as our partners, have been doing, and the field staff who have been out there to make sure that construction sites are safe and the quality work is continuing. But thank you for asking this question. There were $1 billion invested over 10 years. That equaled out to be about 799 roofs at 80 developments. The goal to this, or the excitement to this, is that we're going to move a roofing pipeline from deferred maintenance into life cycle costs. The program was successful enough that the mayor and the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, allowed us to accelerate the program. But I wanted to let you know that Tranche 1, which was 6 developments and 65 buildings, that is completed. Tranche 2, which was 6 developments and roughly 78 roofs, that, for the most part, is in closeout, except for one development, Brook Ellen, in which we are working with the security. We have an issue with that particular contract, and law department is assisting us through that. Tranche number 3, that one is 9 developments and 94 roofs. Construction, 5 of those 9 is about 80%, and the remaining are in a very in construction, anywhere from around 10% to about 50% construction. Tranche 4 is 12 developments. I think in my chart I had shortchanged us on a couple of roofs, but it's around 134 roofs. Those are currently in procurement, either have gone to the board and are passing through the VNC program, as well as the comptroller, and we're working with the comptroller to get those released. Tranche 5 is about 8 developments and 111 roofs, and those are all in design, and we plan, and they are on schedule, and we plan for them to be completed in the fall of 2020, which we would then go out to bid on. Tranche 6 is about 32 developments at 186 roofs, and we are in the design selection. Tranche 7 and 8, those are outer year funding years, and so we don't hire the architects associated to that until those funding years are met. although we have an agreement with OMB where we kind of get ahead of the design schedule, but they're funding years 2022 and 2023.
Super. That's great progress. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And again, it's a lot of dedication and hard work by the Capitol staff, as well as our partners who are designing these projects, as well as manufacturing the materials and getting the projects installed. I'm going to move on to board item number 15. This is a ratification of a change order. This is change order number 8 for this contract. The ratification change order is in the amount of $23,000 to Adams European Contracting, Inc. This change order is associated to work that has already been done, and it was for a requirement by Con Edison to modify from when the design and the bid was built for additional needs at that site in order for us to close out and get the approval. This is part of a recovery and resiliency program, and the amount again is $23,000. Item number 16 and 17. Capital seeks authorization to approve 2 funding increases for 2 job order contracts. That's 1 funding increase per each of the job order contracts. Both of those job order contracts are with Gemco Electrical Contractors. The funding increases are presented to you because it exceeds 10% of the original value. The 2 contract numbers are GR 1524368 for an increase of $8 million and GR 1524369 for an amount of $6 million. These are geographically located. One is for Bronx and Queens, and one is for Manhattan. And we primarily use these contracts for apartment renovation work under the Mayor's Homeless Initiative, as well as some of the apartment renovations in the Recovery and Resiliency Program. We have been using this because it's a general contract for some of the waste management work that we have not been able to bid effectively through other means of procurement. If there are no other questions, I will move on to board item number 18. This is an authorization to ratify a change order in the amount of $168,000 $168,500. This is part of a contract with Zier Biyan, and I apologize, I've mispronounced their name, Dynamic Construction Company. This is for groundwork at Boston Seacourt. We have 2 issues that this change order is taking care of. One was a site condition in which there was additional asphalt pavement thickness as they were removing it, as well as an error on some contract documents, which we have resolved, and we are taking care of that situation as well. Board item number 19 seeks authorization to ratify a change order in the amount of $125,000 to the contract with ACS Systems Associates, Inc. This is for a senior renovation at Betanzas 1 houses, and the change order is being presented to the board because the total value of the change order exceeds 10% of the original contract value. This is the 10th change order for this project. The situation, as indicated, is that there was an existing fire suppression system and range and hood and air fan that was not associated to the project, but because it was in the vicinity of the renovations of the kitchen, the Department of Buildings and FDNY requested for that to be replaced, and so for the project to be signed off. We have elected to do that work, which will then allow for the suppression system, the fan, and the heating at the range to be code compliant and up to code for this community center. Again, the value of that was $125,000. There are no other questions. I'll move on to item number 20. Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to ratify a change order in the contract with Delrick Construction Company, Inc. This is a recovery and resiliency program, and this is for wrangle houses in the amount of $64,000. This is the 16th change order. The issue is associated to a 60 amp item in the retail community area that was changed in between the time period of the award of the contract and the work to a 200 amp, and we had to make the necessary modifications to the electrical system to allow for that. And again, that one was for $64,000. No other questions. I'll move on to item number 21. This also is a recovery and resiliency program. This is authorization to ratify funding increase with the agreement with Cohn, Pedersen, and Fox, KPF, for architectural and engineering services at Red Hook West houses. This is for $16,780. While we were doing the roofing work, it was discovered that there were some bricks and brick issues at 3 of the bulkheads at building number 1. We asked KPF to do the documents associated to that work so that way we could complete it at the same time period we were doing the roofing work. And the change order is for $85,000, $85,500. This is associated to project that they were doing for us, and the bids we received were higher than our cost estimates, and we needed to value engineer the project. So Curtis and Ginsburg redesigned for no additional costs, but the other costs associated to that redesign, such as filing with the Department of Buildings, with their consultants, needed to be paid. That's again for $85,500. The last two more items for you. Moving on to item number 23. Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to reject the sole bid for the trash hoist replacement and the vertical reciprocatory conveyors, or VRCs, at Marlboro houses. This is a scenario where the elevator programs are no longer in the PLA, and this job required us to follow the Law 101, also known as Wick's Law. We received a electrical contract bid, but we did not receive a general contract bid, and it is not prudent for us to move forward with only one aspect of the contract. We will rebid this as 2 contracts together, so that way we make sure that we have a holistic project associated to the Marlboro houses. And the last, yes.
Just from my own education on this, is it when this happens, do we know we go out for bid, we only got half of what we asked for? Are there any other provisions we could invoke that would allow us to, marry up it's the general contracting part we didn't get the bid for, correct?
Correct.
I'm just curious if there's any way we could look at when that happens, is there any room at all in the law to, kind of make our own match or not? Just asking.
Thank you very much for that question. In regards to the elevator portfolio, this particular contract, we're working with law to better procure the Wick's Law programs. We know that we're going to have a few more of these. Capital Projects Division hasn't done Wick's Law in a number of years, and so we're kind of relearning the Wick's Law program, and I think this is a good lessons learned on how we submit the contracts and linking those contracts to make sure that we have all parties involved.
Yeah, and
we've also done. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, finish and I'll ask.
And then we have a very large elevator pipeline coming down the pike with the state funding and the city funding agreements and some federal. We've been reaching out to our partners, Local 3, in making sure that the elevator laborers are looking at our contracts and bidding on our work. Because of the PLA and the issue with the two locals, Capital Projects Division, and actually the authority hasn't bid project. I don't think it's since like 2014. I can get back to you on the exact dates. We did commence a webinar a couple weeks ago that was well attended by the manufacturers of elevators, who indicated, looking at our pipeline, that they could completely support Capital Projects Division and the Housing Authority's elevator program. And we do also know that there is a lot of elevator work right now due to a Department of Buildings change in the code. And we've been working with Local 3 to find out kind of when that threshold of work is going to end. So that way there is a labor force that's available to bid on this work.
Thank you.
Okay. I did kind of cut you off, Greg. Was there any other questions that you had?
No, that's okay, Steve. We can go on.
Okay, thank you. Item number 24, this is the last item for Capital Projects Division. Thank you very much for your time. We seek authorization to reject all bids for the contract to installation and replacement of compactors and related work at various developments in the Bronx. We received 2 bid proposals that were received. The lowest bidder, Quality Construction Consulting LLC, was deemed non-responsive for failure to include the contractor experience form in the bid submission that is required by the bid documents, the authority's bid documents. The second lowest bidder, Gem Quality Corporation, submitted a bid that was 109.5% above the authority's estimate, which we deem extremely excessive. So for that reasoning, we're requesting to reject all bids, and we are currently assessing whether the work should be done in a different type of procurement, or if we will repackage this and put it back out on the street with additional conversations with the industry. If there are no other questions, that concludes Capital Projects Division's items. Thank you very much for your time. And again, I wish you all, your families, and your colleagues a safe and healthy time during this pandemic.
John,
Yes.
before you go, remember I was waiting for you to finish all of it before I asked the question, the general question that I was going to ask.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so my general question is the following. I often see, and this is even from before you got here, that for certain items or certain jobs, that you'll send out a large amount of bids, but only get back maybe 1 or 2 responses from the people that, or the agencies or companies or contractors that are going to be bidding on it. You get very little. So my question to you is this: is there anything, do you guys assess the reason why the response is so low, or are you looking to make the contracts more attractive so that then you will get more people that will come to bid for these particular items?
That's a very good question, and thank you very much. It is something that we struggle with. We have done a lot of outreach, and I think coming out of that outreach over the last 3 years, we have been simplifying and editing our contract documents to make sure that they match our sister agencies or look similar to our sister agencies. Again, if you're a contractor and you know how to do bricks and you know how to do roofs, the last thing you want is a contract that's this thick and full of a bunch of legal jargon. No offense to the attorneys. And that becomes very, very difficult. And we've taken, and law department has helped us with this, and we've been very grateful to kind of go through those contracts and make sure that the language and the look of them, it could even just be the look, and we've been doing that. make them similar to contracts that are with other agencies or in the street. I think the success of that was the CM IDIQ, where we remodified that. It looked a lot like the DEP and DDC documents, and it was well received, and we received a ton of CMs to do the work for our IDIQ. In addition to that, we have to do outreach to our vendors for the city heating plant program. We had a successful turnout of all of the boiler manufacturers to come in, showed them everything, all our cards. This is our pipeline. This is the time frame that we need to do it in, and do you have the resources to do it? And not only do you have the resources to do it, can you assist us in making sure that contractors who may not necessarily bid on NYCHA work are putting out that that are looking at our bids, and we've been successful in that we've received bidders. We've done the same thing on roofing. Two of the roofing projects that we presented to the board this week are vendors that have not done a lot of work with housing authority, but because of the size of our roofing pipeline, because of the quality of the work that we've been doing in terms of the contract documents, we've really analyzed the specs and made them very, very clear for the contractors to provide a couple of options on which way they want to go. We believe that it's been successful enough to get a lot of roofing manufacturers and laborers to come to NYCHA projects to complete our program, and we haven't had problems getting contractors there. Elevators is going to be one of those more difficult pipelines, and again, we're reaching out to Local 3. That's the labor group that does the majority of our work, and making sure that their contractors have the capacity to do the work, as well as working with them and understanding things like, as I mentioned, the Department of Buildings rule in the safety item that pretty much every single person that had an elevator in the city of New York needed to modify their elevators in a very short period of time. It flooded the market, and although that requirement I think was due to be completed in 2019, from my conversations with the labor, they're still working on that, and I think it's going to take us another 3 to 4 months to get there. And so we're going to stagger our elevator projects to make sure that we're aligned with the rest of the labor on that. But it's a very, very good point, and we are, we'll any suggestion that anyone has to increase the bidder pool and make our work more attractive to anyone, we'd like to. I'm happy to hear those ideas because we'll try anything in essence to increase that bidder pool and make sure that we have good quality contractors bidding on NYCHA work.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you're familiar, but one of my pet peeves is the Section 3 hiring. And I see that you guys are actually doing better. I'm sure there's room for improvement, but I want to thank you and everyone involved that is putting in the people to work in the Section 3 program. I want to thank you and anyone else in the authority that's responsible for that aspect. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. And I concur with you. Section 3 is a very, very important item for Capital Projects Division.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
If there are no other items no other questions, for Steve Lovesey, I would like to go back to number 13. Marissa Schaefer.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Marissa Schaefer, the Vice President of Transactions in the Real Estate Development Department, and I will be presenting item 13. The Real Estate Development Department is seeking authorization to amend a prior board resolution. The prior board resolution and this amendment concern conveyance of FHA homes in Queens and Brooklyn to two non-for-profit organizations for rehabilitation and resale to low and moderate income first-time homebuyers. The Real Estate Development Department has closed a number of similar transactions with these two nonprofit organizations since 2012. The prior board resolution authorized submission of 2 Section 18 applications and an amendment to a previously submitted Section 18 application to HUD for approval to dispose in total of 20 vacant single-family and 8 vacant multifamily FHA homes in Queens and Brooklyn. And upon receipt of the HUD approval for those Section 18 applications, conveyance of title of those properties to 2 not-for-profit organizations, Habitat for Humanity New York City and Restored Homes Housing Development Fund Corporation, for those 2 organizations to rehabilitate the FHA homes and to provide affordable homeownership opportunities for authority residents and other low and moderate income first-time home buyers through the resale of those homes. So that's an overview of what had previously been approved by the board through the prior resolution. Through this proposed board amendment, we're now seeking approval to make 2 changes to the prior resolution. First, to add 1 property to the list of FHA homes to be redeveloped by Restored Homes, and that's a home in Queens. We're adding this property to be clear that it'll be conveyed to Restored Homes rather than Habitat. It was included in the RFP to which Restored Homes responded, but was previously approved by the NYCHA board for conveyance to Habitat for Humanity. So we're adding it here for clarity that it will be conveyed to Restored Homes. Second, this proposed amendment seeks to revise the area median income levels for the Restored Homes project sites from 50% AMI to 120% AMI. And this change is required to align with New York City's Housing Preservation and Development Agency's Open Door program to ensure that there's adequate financing for the project sites to be rehabilitated and purchased for low-income homeownership. Are there any questions?
No.
Thank you. There being no questions, we will move on to items 25 through 62, which will be presented by Joseph Courtine.
Yes, hi, I'm Joe Courtine, one of the VPs of Operations. I'm happy to be here. I hope all are doing well and remain healthy and continue on through this current crisis. I will be presenting items number 25 through 64. Item number 25 is requesting to ratify an agreement with W.W. Granger Incorporated for the purchase and delivery of plastic trash bags, various locations citywide. The amount of $1,073,596.77 for a 6-month period, extend through September 30th of 2020. There are no renewal options on this contract. Questions? Okay. Items number 26 and 27. Seeking to ratify award for a requirement contract for service of intercom systems to CLC Communications Incorporated, which is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, for an initial 2-year term. It also provides for a 1-year renewal option. The first and lowest bidder was deemed non-responsive for failure to submit the required bid bond as outlined in the authority's bid documents. Number 26 was for various developments in Brooklyn in the amount of $1,596,952.65. Item number 27 is various Queens and Staten Island developments, the amount of $1,600,789.50. Any questions? Item number 28 is requesting approval for an award of requirement contract for the purchase and delivery of door lock jumper monitoring panels with brake monitoring to Clada Controls Corporation, which is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, for a 3-year term contract with no renewal options. Various locations citywide. In the amount of $4,509,000. This is to this system monitors the elevator cars and also the floors, so that if either the inner door or the outer door has not closed and latched properly, it will not allow the car to move. avoiding serious, dangerous conditions. Questions? Item number 29 is seeking approval that entering into an agreement with W.W. Granger Incorporated for the purchase and delivery of electric single burner hot plates. Various locations, development citywide, including the warehouse. The amount of $1,185,460.02 for a 3-year term contract with no renewal options. Questions? Item number 30, seeking approval for a funding increase with W.W. Granger Incorporated for the purchase and delivery of various types of gloves, various locations citywide, including the warehouse. The amount of $122,245 for the remainder of the 3-year term. Any questions? Items number 31 through 36 are seeking approval for a funding increase to requirement contracts for maintenance painting of apartments for the remainder of initial 2-year terms with 1-year renewal options. I'll read off the development, the contractor to which it was awarded, and the amount for 31 through 36. For item number 31, it's Moore and St. Mary's Park, LLC 1. The vendor is Sahara Construction Incorporated. Amount is $272,772. Item number 32 is Mariners Harbor, and the vendor is Amet Construction Corporation in the amount of $100,000. Item number 33 is Fulton Houses, and the vendor is Amazonas Painting Corporation in the amount of $100,000. Item number 34 for Baisley Park, Conlon Life Tower, International Tower, and Shelton. The vendor is OM Number 1 Construction Corporation in the amount of $100,000. Item number 35 is Butler Houses, and the vendor is New Apps Management Corporation in the amount of $100,000. Item number 36 is Linden LLC 2 Houses. The vendor is New Apps Management Corporation in the amount of $286,148. Are there any questions on these items? Items number 37 through 44, are seeking approval for increase to requirement contracts for removal and installation of vinyl composition floor tiles in apartments. In this case, I will also read off the development name, the vendor, and the amount to be awarded. Item number 37 is Pelham Parkway and Boston Road Plaza. The contractor is JP Handa Construction Incorporated. The amount is $50,000, and it's the period to be covers the remainder of a 6-month renewal option term. Item number 38 is various Manhattan developments, and the vendor is Amar Construction Incorporated. The amount is $50,000. That's for the remainder of an initial 1-year term with a 6-month renewal option. Item number 39 is the Queensbridge South Houses. Vendor is Amet Construction Corporation. The amount of $50,000 for the remainder of a 6-month renewal option term. Item number 40 is Baisley Park, Conlon Life, International Tower, and Shelton. Vendor is Amet Construction Corporation. The amount of $50,000, and it's for a remainder of a 6-month renewal option term. I'm sorry. Just skip down. Item number 41, LaGuardia Addition and 2 Bridges URA, Site 7. And the vendor is DPAC Contracting Incorporated, the amount of $50,000 for the remainder of initial one-year term with a 6-month renewal option. Item number 42 is for Tilden Houses. Vendor is Amet Construction Corporation, the amount of $50,000 for the remainder of an initial one-year term with a 6-month renewal option. Item number 43 is Roosevelt 1 and 2, and the vendor is USA Construction Incorporated in the amount of $50,000 for the remainder of an initial one-year term with a 6-month renewal option. Item number 44, St. Nicholas Houses. For vendor is Cushy Construction Incorporated in the amount of $50,000. Sorry, just jumped again. And this $50,000 for a remainder of an initial one-year term with a 6-month renewal option. Are there any questions on these items?
Yes.
Sir. Yes, sir.
I've noticed that regardless of what development it is, whether large or small, it's always the same amount, 50,000. I think I've asked this in the past, but I just want to be clear on it moving forward. So this is just a bird's eye view of what you want to do and the money that you're asking for, just in case there's more work or less work. Is it only for move out apartments? Is it for general? I mean, what is the exact purpose of the tiles? And the reason I ask that, to kind of give you a heads up, is there are times when only 1 or 2 tiles, or 3 or 4 tiles, or maybe half the in one room break down, and now you have different tiles in the apartments. So can you break down for me exactly what these tiles, the changing of these tiles, is for?
Exactly, it could be any one of those things, but for the most part, it would be where you're doing a room, right? Where you're changing a room, doing work in a room where maybe the floor has to be changed, or it's damaged enough so as to be changed. It
Right.
usually has to do with a whole floor. I wouldn't say I would preclude the fact that half a room might be done in some instances, or circumstances like that, but mainly it's for a full room or multiple rooms in an apartment, or as you indicated, like a move out where they're doing the entire apartment. And as you see, the differences in some cases is the amount of buildings being covered, and the term under which the contract is at, where it's maybe sometimes still within the initial term of the contract with this then the 6-month extension, or it's in the midst of that 6-month renewal option. So that's what's kind of varying. And I think also it has to do with this time in which we are in terms of accessing apartments, right, to do some of this work during this period of time. So it's these numbers, even though people do tend to like round numbers, and that may be part of it as well. It really has to do with the size of the locations covered and the term at which they are in the contract.
So one last question that now has arisen from your response. So are we, or do we have the availability or the legal term that if at any particular development you complete the work and now you have excess, can that excess be moved to another development, or is it put in storage? What happens to that?
Oh, this is to provide on when the contractor is hired for the job. So in other words, the material wouldn't be something that we'd have in this case in these contracts. The material is not supplied until, or excuse me, purchased by the contractor until such time as they do the work. So if it's not used, it's not used. It's not purchased. This is so that it allows for jobs to be continue going forward through this period of time. It doesn't mean that all the money would have to be allocated towards floor tile and purchased, and then we'd have all this floor tile around. It really has to do with the contractor and them purchasing the tile for installation as needed, according to that particular job.
Well, that's the reason why I asked the initial question about the $50,000 at
Yep.
all the developments.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Just curious.
Thank you. Okay, items 45 through 56, seek approval for increase to requirement contracts. Item number 45 is for asbestos abatement and replacement of floor tiles in move-out apartments, various Brooklyn locations. Vendor is AMC United Incorporated, in the amount of $1,700,248.33. It's for the remainder of an initial 2-year term with a 1-year renewal option. Item number 46 is integrated pest management. Contract for integrated pest management, various Queens and Staten Island locations with Kingsway Exterminating Company Incorporated, the amount of $53,467.78. It's for the remainder of an initial 2-year term with a 1-year renewal option. Item number 46. I'm sorry, I did that already. Apologize. Item number 47 is for tub glazing. Various Queens and Staten Island locations. Vendor is City Star Renovation Incorporated. The amount of $96,375.64. It's for the remainder of an initial 2-year term with a 1-year renewal option. Item number 48 is for wood floor repair and refinish. Various locations citywide. With Earthlink General Construction Incorporated in the amount of $147,954.62. Remainder of it for a remainder of an initial 2-year term with a 1-year renewal option. Excuse me. Item number 49 is for the purchase and delivery of Mortise Locks hardware, various locations citywide, including the warehouse, with Retro Lock Corporation, the amount of $60,967.40 for the remainder of a 3-year term contract. Item number 50 is for the purchase and delivery of window balances, balance accessories and tools, window locks, latches, and handles, various locations citywide, including the warehouse, with Barry Supply Incorporated in the amount of $108,055.48 for the remainder of a 3-year contract term. Item number 51 is for purchase and delivery of locks and latch sets, various developments citywide, including the warehouse, with Retro Lock Corporation, the amount of $397,697.65, the remainder of a 3-year term contract. Item number 52 is for the repair, replacement of roof and rear exit doors, various Bronx, Brooklyn, and Manhattan developments, with Encore Construction Contracting Incorporated, the amount of $187,791.71 for the remainder of an initial 2-year term with a 1-year renewal option. Item number 53 is for the purchase and delivery of locks and lock sets, various developments citywide, including the warehouse, with Standard Wholesale Hardware Incorporated, the amount of $71,377.40 for the remainder of a 3-year term contract. Item number 54 is for the purchase and delivery of commercial grade door sweeps for pest control management, various developments citywide, with Global Material Technologies Incorporated in the amount of $322,000, and it's for the remainder of a 3-year term contract. Item number 55 is for boiler welding and repair services, various Bronx location, with the contractor New York Boiler Incorporated, in the amount of $210,000 for the remainder of initial 2-year term with a 1-year renewal option. Item number 56 is for the purchase and delivery of Tricon Turnbull elevator parts, various developments citywide, including the warehouse, with BART Elevator Services Incorporated, in the amount of $196,000, $543.20, the remainder of a 3-year term. Numbers 57 and 58, seeking approval to ratify a funding increase to required contracts for the removal and installation of vinyl composition floor tiles in apartments for the remainder of initial 1-year term with a 6-month renewal option. Item number 57 is for Douglas 1 and 2, Douglas Addition, and 830 Amsterdam Avenue, and the vendor is Sim Construction Incorporated, in the amount of $50,000. Item number 58 is Coney Island 1, Sites 4 and 5, Coney Island, and Surfside Gardens, with the vendor Polo Construction Corporation, in the amount of $237,793. Items 59 through 61 seek to ratify a funding increase to the IDIQ contracts with RJ Bruner Incorporated for plumbing repairs. There's various developments citywide, each in the amount of $2,700,000, and it's for a remainder of a 2-year term with 3 1-year renewal options. Item number 62, seeking to ratify a funding increase to an IDIQ contract with RJ Bruno Incorporated for water main repairs, various developments citywide, in the amount of $1,100,000 for the remainder of initial 2-year term with a 1-year renewal option. Excuse me. Item number 63 is seeking to ratify a funding increase to a requirement contract with Waste Connections of New York Incorporated for bulk garbage carting services, various Brooklyn locations, the amount of $70,000 for the remainder of an extension of 32-day term. Excuse me. Item number 64 is to amend the board resolution to change the erroneously stated terms, dates, to accurately reflect the terms and dates as they appear on the executed requirement contract, and ratifying the funding increase to a requirement contract with Waste Connections of New York Incorporated for bulk garbage services, carting services, various locations, Staten Island, in the amount of $30,000 for the remainder of a 1-year renewal option. Questions? Well, I thank you for your time. I appreciate your patience with me and my headset, and you have a great day. Thank you very much.
Good morning, board members, chair. I will be presenting item number 65. My name is Kelly McNeil, representing the law department. Authorization is requested to enter into a retainer agreement with Jackson Lewis PC for outside counsel services in connection with employment practices claims, litigation and causes of action for a 5-year period in the total amount of $1,450,000, including 2 1-year renewal options. Jackson Lewis was selected after an RFP process. Are there any questions?
No.
Just
Thank
for
you.
clarification, Ms. McNeil, is $1,450,000, correct?
1.450.
Five.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Any other questions, board members?
Nope.
Questions?
So as we indicated before, Vice Chair Garcia departed a little early. She was in favor of all the items, so I will formally take a motion to approve the 65 items that were presented here today.
I motion, Victor.
Do I have a second?
Paula.
Second.
Who-
Second,
Can you identify?
Jackie.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Victor.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Matt, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all so much for joining our first remote meeting. Everyone did well. Again, I thank my team, especially Mariella and the IT folks who were very instrumental in making this happen today. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Have a great
Thanks,
day and
everybody.
all stay safe.
Thank
you
you.
all.
Be safe now.
Everyone be safe. Bye-bye.
Okay.
I'll be calling you, Greg.
Sure. Please do, Victor.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.